the Rambler Network.
Good morning. Welcome back to The Digressor. I'm Trevor, and today we're talking about Elisa Lam. You've probably heard her name. Maybe you've seen the elevator footage. Maybe you've watched the Netflix documentary. Maybe you saw the Ghost Adventures episode. But Elisa Lam wasn't a ghost story. She wasn't a viral video. She wasn't the girl from The Ring. She was a person. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a student, a writer. She had dreams. She had struggles. And she had a voice that was uniquely her own. So, today, we are going to talk about Elisa Lam. Not the myth, not the spectacle, but the person. Elisa was born in British Columbia on 30 April 1991. The daughter of immigrants from Hong Kong, she was a student at the University of British Columbia, and like many of us, she shared her thoughts online. She had a Tumblr blog called Etherfields, where she wrote about her life, her mental health, books, fashion, and heartbreak. Her posts were raw, poetic, and vulnerable. She didn't pretend to be perfect. She was honest about living with bipolar disorder and depression, but she also had hope. She wanted to travel, wanted to connect, she wanted to live. In early 2013, Elisa set out on a solo trip through California. She traveled by train and bus, stopping in places like San Diego, Santa Cruz, and eventually Los Angeles. On 26th of January, she checked into the infamous Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. A few days later, she vanished. The timeline gets murky here, and this is where the myth-making begins. Hotel staff reported seeing her alone. Her family, who spoke with her daily, grew worried when they didn't hear from her. A missing persons report was filed, and then there was the video. You know the one, the grainy elevator footage, Elisa stepping in, pressing buttons, peeking out, moving in ways that some called erratic, others called frightened, and many, far too many, called creepy. The video was released by LAPD, hoping for leads, but the internet had other plans. People picked apart her gestures, her clothing, the timestamp. Some were just curious. Others went full conspiracy theorist. Theories bloomed like weeds: government cover-ups, ghost possessions, dark rituals, even murder. At the center of it all was Elisa. But almost none of these people ever asked about her. Who she was, what she loved, what she feared, what her life was like before the Cecil Hotel. As far as they are concerned, her life began the moment she entered the Cecil Hotel. The Netflix documentary, Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, had a chance to tell that story, but instead it focused largely on YouTubers, people who didn't know Elisa at all. It gave more screen time to internet sleuths than her friends or family, which her friends or family didn't have any screen time at all. They didn't interview any of them. They analyzed the elevator video like it was a puzzle, not a moment from the human's life. The show told us more about the hotel than about Elisa. They interviewed the manager of the hotel. And then there's Ghost Adventures, a show that went even further off the rails. Their Cecil Hotel episode painted Elisa as a ghostly figure, making her look like the ghost girl from The Ring, haunted and possessed. They layered in sound effects, spooky music, and stylized reenactments that looked like horror movies. It was disrespectful, sensationalized, and worst of all, It was dehumanizing. Because again, Elisa Lam was a person. She was 21 years old. She liked reading Chuck Palahniuk and watching Sherlock. She loved fashion and photography. She was struggling, yes, but she was also searching, trying, like so many of us. Her death was officially ruled an accidental drowning. The coroner's report confirmed there were no drugs, no alcohol, no signs of trauma or foul play. Elisa's bipolar disorder was cited as a contributing factor. It's painful and it's tragic, and it's something her family never asked to have turned into a public spectacle. They lost their daughter, and in the midst of that grief, they had to watch the world turn her into a meme. What would it look like if we remembered Elisa with empathy instead of fear? What if we looked at that elevator footage and thought, here is someone who's scared, instead of, this is creepy? What if we questioned the hotel's handling of her disappearance, or the state of mental health support in our society, instead of jumping to ghosts and conspiracies? What if we took the time to read her blog? Because if you do, you'll find a thoughtful, funny, brilliant young person trying to make sense of her place in the world. You'll find someone who wanted to connect, to love, to be seen. Not as a ghost, not as a mystery, but as a person. Elisa Lam deserved better. From the hotel, from the media, from all of us. She still does. And if this episode has moved you at all, I encourage you to seek out Elisa's writing. Remember her, not as a headline, but as a human being.
The Rambler Network.